Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Master Division in the Eastern Open Tournament. The video is sponsored by Gold Flash and Playdemic, so let's go! Here we are going to play from the third tee, as we always are doing in Master Division. I'm going for hole number one, show you two approaches. One where we're going to bounce over the bunker, one where we're going to lay up on the right side of the bunker. All to give you the best explanations on this hole. Before I take my first shot, look down in the video description. You can get the link to patreon.com/golfclashtommy. There you can get the updated text guides for the Easter Open tournament, also future tournaments. So I'm going to play with the driver that gives me the most distance, which in my case is the Apocalypse level 7. And I'm going to play with just a general Kingmaker here. And I'm going to play myself on the right side of the bunker and going to use as much side spin to the right possible, and with 3 bars of topspin, aiming straight down the middle there with the red ring slightly inside the rough there to the right. Then we're going to have to over adjust this shot 20%, but here I'm just gonna play it 8.5 rings, play it basically max distance with no over or under adjustment whatsoever. And you can see here we're bouncing ourselves very nicely down here to the right, and we're going to leave a minimum distance short iron towards the pin. And here I'm going to dunk. For some of you that might feel more confident going with a wedge going for the pin, then you can go with a wedge in max distance here. I'd rather go with a dunk, as this is a spot that I've been dunking from many times. And even though I'm not gonna make it with a dunk here, there is a slight miss that I'm not really thinking about here, and I'm gonna come to that as well. So, and if you do try to reach over with a Kingmaker or with any ball below power 4, I would say, then you're gonna risk going into the rough to the left or also into the bunker big time. So, second shot here, and you can see me going with the max backspin on my thorn. And when you just roll over to short iron here on this one, I'm gonna go for the dunk, then it is important that we are going to play this one 5% uphill. Weird, but yes. And the plan here is to play this one 3.4 rings. Or at 3.5, and in the end, when we are so close, then we're going to play it for 5% uphill, and that would get us to the pin there. If we would in case go, let's say we would be going a little bit less there, we would be playing it just as a minimum distance dunk. Now second time, now I'm going to play with a Berserker, 2 bars backspin, max side spin to the left, and I don't want the blue ring by the rough, I want the red ring by the rough. So that's something that I want you to tweak. Have in mind here though that if you do have a very strong wind, the tree on the right is going to be in play, so don't go with any curl to the left, then you're gonna hit the tree most definitely. Max overpower, and we're gonna bounce this one very nicely over the bunker here. Have in mind that the wind angle is going to change from time to time, so I would prefer playing with a gridiron ball, a gear ball, or with an autumn ball, which all of them has power 5 but have wind resistance 2. So instead of the Berserker with a wind resistance 1, we do have wind resistance 2, then we're gonna make it over every single time. And that goes for clubs that has 240 yards of distance, Apocalypse 5, 6, and 7. And also, last but not least with that, if you do have wind that is above 13 miles per hour, you go with 2 bar backspin. If you do have wind that is below 13 miles per hour, you play with 2.5 bar backspin. Then you're gonna have plenty of room bouncing over, and in a worst case scenario, you are going to have to play with a wedge like I'm doing here. And this is a wedge that if you play in Master Division, you should be making this wedge every single time. So now we're gonna go over to hole number 2, and hole number 2 I'm gonna play with all about 1 bar topspin here with my Apocalypse, 2 bar side spin to the right, not necessary, but something that I would like to do. And here I'm going to aim for just the cutoff by the rough and the fairway there. I would almost rather want to get to see the second bounce just on top of the rough there instead, because of the compressed ball guideline, combined with that we're going to adjust down into a lower position here and therefore lose distance. We are going to adjust maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment with a power 4 ball. And this is a power 4 ball, just like a dead ball or something like that. A tiny bit of overpower, around 10 to 20% overpower. And the thing that we do want is to bounce in the rough to roll out on the fairway, which is good. We don't want to push it more, we don't want to risk more, and also want to play with as little overpower as possible. If you do play with a power 3 ball, you most likely will have to play with around 50% overpower. And also if you do play with a club that gives you, let's say like you play with a club that gives you only 6 bars topspin, like an Apocalypse level 5 for an example, then you will most likely have to go with max overpower. But I still think that's the best way to play hole number 2, instead of trying to mess around with the left side going towards the pin there. So our opponent's gonna go to the left, and you know, if you do want to play to the left, you need to be as close as possible to the rough there on top. Super important. Approach shot now. Now we're gonna play with the Cataclysm at level 7. You can also play with the sniper here if you do want to, or I said that we're gonna play with sniper, but I do want you to play with a Cataclysm, not with a sniper, as when we're playing with a sniper here, we're going to most likely come in between clubs. I'm using 6 bars topspin, but I want you to play with 5.5. 5.5 bar topspin, and we want to aim closer towards the rough. The reason I will back this one up and use more topspin is because I do want to stay away from going in between clubs or get into max overpower. Slight amount of overpower is needed here, and always when we do have to play with overpower, it's gonna be a little bit risky. And you can see where I'm aiming. I'm aiming in between the trees here, trying to not bounce into the rough, of course, to bounce and roll towards the pin. Now I cut the rough there, which is unfortunate, but it's still going to make myself have a very easy wedge going towards the pin. Hole number 3, and here I'm going to play, you know, 2 ways, I would say. Sorry, not 2 ways. But I do believe, after playing this hole a couple of times now, that there is basically 2 ways to play. One is when we play with the rocket and use backspin in the minimum distance of our club. And we do have one way where we're going to bounce with a sniper. And bounce with a sniper you can do with a power 3 ball, but I would prefer you playing with a more wind resistance ball. And preferably a turkey ball or an arrow ball, which has power 2 and wind resistance 5. So there we have it. We do have the arrow ball, which is power 2, wind resistance 5. And I'm not going to use any topspin, any backspin, any side spin whatsoever. I'm just gonna let and look at the tip of my ball guideline. Second bounce, no problem. Third bounce, no problem. When it comes to the 4th bounce, which is very hard to see, I do want that one to be straight in the hole, and with the tip of the ball guideline being approximately 1 square before the fringe at top. Then we're going to over adjust our tee shot here with 30%, so maximum distance with 30% over adjustment with the sniper. Now, the reason I do miss to the left here is because I did aim with my target of the left side of the pin, because I thought that the ball was gonna fall down towards the pin. So we are going to aim straight at the pin and go from there. Hole number 4 now, and now we're just gonna lay up and we're gonna go for the dunk. I really don't like it, but there isn't a better way for us to get an opportunity here. And I would like to see us going for a short iron dunk in max distance, like a Thorn in max distance. But also when you play with maybe a more wind resistant ball and less power, then we're going to play with a Saturn in minimum distance. So the clubs you're gonna pick here is the Thorn for your short iron, the Saturn, or the Tsunami as long iron. We're going to over adjust our drive 10%. That's super important. Now we hit it slightly great to the left, and now we are a little bit lucky for the ball to actually get to stay there. I wanted to come in more to the right, and something to have in mind here, that sometimes when we are using a decent amount of topspin, we're sometimes gonna find a downhill slope on the fairway, and the ball is gonna roll directly into the sand. So I also want you not just pick the Saturn or the Tsunami and the Thorn. I also want you to pack the Houdini. I want you to pack the Amazon, because that will give you backspin. So if you do go into the rough, you don't have to play with such a tight line going towards the green. So you still can aim on the green and hit it great, basic, and just make a bad shot but still be there. Because frankly, we need to understand here that if we are not getting it to the fairway, it's going to be too tough with the clubs that we're having to go directly at the pin trying to gain an eagle. And this is not, even though it's going to be a dunk opportunity, this is not going to be a hole where people are going to make it all the time. But in this case, I'm playing with my short iron, and when I do draw out here, I do feel that I'm kind of close to max distance, more like max, in between mid and max, maybe a little bit more. So I'm not valuing this as max distance. We do want to under adjust 10% here as we're playing it uphill. And the thing that I do make as a mistake here is that I actually would need to play this one as max distance of my club. So instead of using, as you can see here, I'm going to play this one slightly less than 4 rings, like 3.9-ish. And that's going to make my ball go short, you know. I'm not gonna even be close towards spin, not even get to zoom in. But you could also see there real quick that I kind of missed with half a ring, which is the extra that I needed for playing it max distance. But when we go for the dunk here, have in mind that you can absolutely hit the pin and fall back down if you're not 100% with your adjustment. But that's, I believe, it's a risk that we will have to take on hole number 4. Hole number 5, par 5, here we're gonna drive as far as possible. I'm using a Berserker ball as I do have Apocalypse level 7. If you do have like an Apocalypse level 5, maybe even Apocalypse level 6 here, I would almost prefer for you to go with a Snow Globe or a Turbo Ball or a Ghost Ball, it's called, to gain more tailwind, so you can gain more distance. But if you do have a club with this amount of topspin, I would definitely prefer you playing with the Berserker ball, so you gain around 500 yards of distance. From this position now, we are going to go with a curl shot and bounce on the fairway with backspin up on the top of the green to fall back down. That's at least the adjustment I do have for now. There is a sand bump in play, but I haven't been trying that one out that much, so I can't really suggest that one yet. So also with the drive 10% extra, so as you can see, with the thing that I did with my drive is that I did adjust the rings that was for maximum distance with a 10% extra and a power 5 ball. And once I was done, I pushed up my target into max distance, so I do know that I do get the angle right. And then I go with full blast over power, and preferably go with a slight amount of curl to the right, so if you drop the ball great left, then you're gonna compensate for that. So now we're going to be a max backspin here with the Cataclysm, and here you can play with the Guardian as well. The only difference between the Cataclysm and the Guardian is that you do have 1 yard more to play with the Cataclysm, and that's not, what can I say, that's not needed here. But let's say you have a lower level up Cataclysm, but you do have a max Guardian, then I would rather play with the Guardian instead of playing with the Cataclysm. max backspin, and then we're going to go for maximum distance with no over or under adjustment here, which is going to be around 12 rings, like 11.9 rings. Once in the end, I will push up my target approximately half a ring to 1 ring to get into the correct distance. Unfortunately, I hit the ball great, but we're still gonna bounce on the fringe there as we got up there, but we're gonna roll down and miss the hole a little bit there to the left. We do want to come up there to the top to make the ball fall down, and the curl, as you could say, is approximately 1 ball outside the adjustment ring to the right. Hole number 6, par 3, as I've said all the way here, is one of my favorite holes here. And I would once again prefer, if you're playing in Master, you do have some more balls with more wind resistance, then we're gonna play with that ball. Now I'm using 2.5 bar backspin, using the red ring by the bottom there of the rough with 1 bar side spin to the left. So we basically are 1 square to the left of the pin. Going to adjust this one for 1-to-1 adjustment, and once I'm done, I'm gonna push up my target approximately half a ring to 1 ring to just compensate for the lower distance we're gonna get when falling down into the water. The thing that you can see here, I was bouncing way low there on the bottom left, which means that we did over adjust this shot pretty much, and also we did bounce very low there. So the thing that I want you to do here is that I want you to play minimum distance with a 10% over adjustment with the quarterback, but I also want you to start with the blue ring by the bottom of the rough there. Then you will not have to compensate anything once you have adjusted your rings, and then it's going to be easier for you to dial it in. Take away the side spin to the left, go with 2.5 bar backspin and aim straight at the hole. A little bit to the left of the hole would be preferred. I might going to make a more detailed breakdown of this one further ahead in the tournament, depending on how it goes. Hole number 7, par 4, last par 4, and here we do have a rough bump. Max top spin and 3 bars side spin to the right, and then we're gonna aim straight down the middle there. The thing that I'm going to do, because we do want to be max distance, I'm going to adjust my rings, which is going to be maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment, which with an Apocalypse level 6 is approximately 9.5 rings. I push up my target into max distance in the end, and then I just make a regular shot, no curl whatsoever, just gonna hit the ball perfect, and we're gonna roll ourselves down here, leaving ourselves with a rough bump with our sniper. The thing is here though, that depending on how far the ball is rolling or how short the ball is rolling, you're gonna either have a Goliath, or like a long, let's say like this, a long iron rough bump, or you're gonna have a sniper, like a wood club rough bump, but the sniper is the only club you should be going with as the rough bump here. And the only thing you will have to have in mind there though, that sometimes you might gonna be in between clubs. That's super unfortunate. And the thing that I would prefer to do is to either have the rough bump in absolute max distance Goliath, or I will have to play with the sniper in complete minimum distance. And that's something that is very hard to replicate. And something that I would say it's something you're going to have to use your feeling in the end, because the rough bump is a little bit tricky. The wind here though in Master is excellent, because we do have a straight crosswind with the rough bump, which is going to make it pretty easy for us to actually hit the rough and not just gonna bounce ourselves over. So now we're going to go up, and you can see we're in absolute just minimum distance with the sniper. And the problem with absolute minimum distance with the sniper is then it's not gonna be played 20% under adjusted anymore. Then it's going to be played a little bit less. So it's going to be played more as a 30-35% under adjusted, because once we are so close, it for some reason makes us having to take off a lot with our adjustment there, even though we are going to go with already on 20% under adjustment. So I would say 35% under adjusted once you get in complete minimum distance of your sniper. If you are more like, you see that the sniper turns up when you are in the top of the bunker instead of once you get very close to the rough, then I would say that you're going to play at minimum distance with a 20% over adjustment instead. A little bit luck of the bounce there, unfortunately. So, hole number 8, par 3, 20% downhill. And I'm going to use the second bounce and the white ring as a reference. So the second bounce, as you can see, I'm having at the fringe here. I do want to back that up to be approximately half a ring before the fringe instead. And also having half of the white ring inside the bunker, not whole of it that I'm having here. This shot works, but it's going to pull us too much to the left, and we're going to come in a little bit too hot. So if we wouldn't be having that hill, it wouldn't be slowing down as it would be doing here. So that is what I do want to do, that I explained just to make some minor tweaks. But also I do want to use the curl with having the ball just being at the outer part of the ring, where the adjustment ring, and not just halfway to it as we did here in this example. Minor tweaks, but all of it to get it close. But I'm going to stay to play with a Centurion or a Kingmaker, which is a power 3 ball, and this adjustment is based by a power 3 ball. If you do want to play with a more wind resistance ball, then you do that, that's up to you. But I at least do want to give myself that power 3 adjustment here, because I feel confident and comfortable with that. Our opponent playing with an eyeball, and you're gonna see a lot of eyeballs here on this one. It is, though, you know, lower wind on a par 3 is definitely helpful, but in the end it doesn't really make you to be the best sometimes. So, hole number 9. Here I'm going to play with a Kingmaker. I would prefer if you play with a power 4 ball here, not necessarily for the drive, but for the second shot, to make that one much easier for yourself. I'm going to put my target into plus 9 yards with 6 bars of topspin, and that's what I'm going to do with a power 4 ball as well. The only difference there is that I'm going to have to I do have more yards to play with a power 4 ball, so I don't have to use as much overpower as I will have to do with a Kingmaker. Then in the end, when you roll down here towards the fairway, you need to be a little bit lucky to get the ball to roll a decent amount of yardage, so you do get up to approximately 350 yards. If you push it too hard, like I did in qualifying day number 1, then we are gonna have a problem. Then we're gonna have a problem if we then fall down into the sand or into the rough. We're gonna have to lay up, and then we're going to have a long iron or a short iron towards the pin to save our eagle. And this is, of course, even though with a straight headwind, almost straight headwind, it's going to be a must eagle here. And therefore, the second shot is going to be played with a lot of distance. So either the big dog or the cataclysm, depending on which one you have in the best level of them, I would say. And then we're going to play over the rough there, using overpower to then bounce ourselves towards the green. This is a good shot from our opponent, coming in a little bit hot, but the wedge from here, even though it's a little bit tricky with that hill falling down, is still gonna be okay. So if you do want to miss the green, you do want to miss to the right, to the left, or before, not gonna roll over, if you're gonna have an easier type of wedge. Now we're gonna have a slight amount of problem here trying to judge how much overpower we do need to have. I did read this one as kind of 75%, but we definitely do need maximum overpower here for this shot. And also I would say we do need more curl, because here you can see I'm hitting the ball perfect. I'm just going over the rough, but also coming out too much to the right. But this wedge isn't going to be a problem, and as it is an uphill wedge, we just have to use topspin and roll it towards the pin, and we're gonna secure the eagle. Hole number 9 is definitely just a hole to take yourself through. It's not gonna be many albatrosses here, and I would say that if you make an albatross having to go with max overpower, it is with a big portion of luck as well. So, Master Division, I do believe we're gonna see minus 30 in the weekend round, or let's say like this, I'm confident that we're gonna see minus 30 in the weekend round. I do believe the guide here is going to make you have a consistent minus 13 if you follow the steps that I showed you. It's definitely going to give you opportunities to get something extra. If you do like the video and the content, take your time, hit thumbs up at the video here. Also, you do have the timestamps down in the video description below. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Good luck in the Easter Open tournament.